This is Sports Charlotte, the podcast about sports in Charlotte. My name is Hough. I'm editor-in-chief of the Charlotte Post. This is Cameron Williams, who is a staff reporter at the Post. It is Friday, October 31st.
Happy Halloween.
2025. Yeah, it is trick-or-treat time. And the little ones, and probably some big ones, will be patrolling neighborhoods tonight, trying to get their tricks and treats on and be safe. That's all I can say.
I'm debating whether I should just, sit back at the house and watch some, the original Halloween. I love the Halloween series. I know, don't want to get down too many rabbit holes, but there's nothing like watching the 1978 Jim Carpenter Halloween with, some takeout from somewhere and just, cozying up with a good blanket.
I'm more of a Friday the 13th kind of guy.
To me, well, I guess you could say the same with Halloween, but to me, Friday the 13th, the original, Jason ain't even the killer. Spoiler alert if you hadn't seen the ones from the 80s. But then it just, after about number 3, it's just out there.
Yeah, sort of like with A Nightmare on Elm Street. It's like, it goes on and on and on, and by the 3rd, 4th installment, the juice is all squeezed out. But
some of the remakes are good. I'll say the Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street remakes in like 2009 or 10, those were decent movies.
Now, if you're into slasher movies, those are pretty good places to start.
The new Halloweens were great. 2018, 21, and 22. I thought those movies were great.
Yeah, I'm also a big fan of old school horror classics. So give me The Invisible Man,
The Thing.
The
Shining.
Dracula. Oh, The Shining with Jack Nicholson. Yeah, that's
a classic.
That's a different kind of classic. But I'm talking about old school 1930s.
Oh, those
classics.
kind of horrors.
Yeah, in like real black and white.
That's not even horror. That's almost comedy at this day and age.
Well, but they set the stage for everything else. But anyway, let us get away from the comedy of whatever we're talking about in terms of horror movies.
On to the topic at hand, sports.
It's especially football. And the biggest, most important game to be played by a Charlotte team this weekend is Johnson C. Smith.
Oh, I'm
hands down, no doubt about it. A berth in the CIAA title game is at stake when the Golden Bulls go to Fayetteville State Saturday, 1 o'clock kickoff. It's a nationally televised game as well on HBCU Go. And it's a winner takes all. It's a cage match. Hell in a Cell and all the other stuff. Winner more than likely goes to the title game in Durham. Loser has to wait until next year.
So, if Smith wins this game, even if they lose to Livingstone, they'd still be in the CIAA title?
Because if they wind up tied with Fayetteville State, Smith would have the head-to-head, which is the first tiebreaker.
Okay.
But Fayetteville could still make it through if they beat Winston-Salem. Livingstone beats Smith, then Smith would have 2 CIAA losses. But if both teams have won, then Smith
would get the head-to-head.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's incumbent upon Smith to sweep the next 2 games in order to secure a spot in the CIAA title game. And dare I even say, probably secure a spot in the Division II playoffs for the first time in school history.
A lot of history on the line, and R2, as he said last week, R2 Faces for TV will be there.
Mm-hmm.
I think this game, for Coach Maurice Flowers, this game has just completely different, I guess, a feel to it than last year. Last year, it was almost like people expected Smith to just kind of waltz in there and do their thing and win and get to the CIAA title game. This year, they're taking a much different approach, and I like the way I kind of phrased the story I wrote last week. New team, kind of new mantra, new season. They've taken every week, 1 week at a time, and I know that's cliche, and coaches like to say that, but
all the time.
This year, I've seen the Golden Bulls do that with intentionality. They don't look ahead. When I talked with Coach Flowers before the Winston-Salem State game, he was like, I even asked, I was like, after this game is the big one. And he's like, nah, we're focused on this week. They go out there, they handle their business, and what would you like to say? They put the whip into them sheepses.
Yeah, to quote Snagglepuss.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put it on those sheepses.
And then they shifted their focus. And look, that's a winning recipe in my book. It's not going to be an easy game by any stretch of the means. I mean, Fayetteville State laid it to them good last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and that could be beneficial. It can also hurt teams. Knowing that a team's got your number is never a good thing, but also it has left a bad taste in Smith's mouth and how bad they got beat, and ultimately, well, it didn't ultimately cost them a berth in the CIAA title game last year. Losing the last game of the year did that, but it didn't help matters.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Fayetteville State has beaten Smith the last 8 times those two schools have gotten together, and Flowers is 0 for 3 against Fayetteville, so he's never beaten them as Smith head coach, and you know that's in the back of everyone's mind, Smith and Fayetteville State, that that's a streak that obviously the Broncos would love to extend, and the Golden Bulls really need to end if they're going to go anywhere.
Yeah. Prognostications, predictions. Do you think Smith can just go in there with that same 1 week at a time mentality, play the brand of football they've played all year to this point, other than maybe the slip up with Union, and win this game?
They can. I think it will come down to offensive efficiency. The Golden Bulls have been on a tear since losing to Virginia Union in week 4. They've won 4 straight by a combined 204 to 60. And they have pretty much just gone nuts on offense. Last week, they hung 52 on Winston-Salem State, which was the biggest margin of a Smith win in that series since 1975. So they're trending in the right direction. But Fayetteville State always finds ways to get by one way or the other. Usually they do it with defense. And it will come down to, can Smith find answers to get past Fayetteville's defense? And Kelvin Durham is going to be key to whatever chances Smith has. Last week he threw for 3 touchdowns, ran for 2 more, and they're going to need that dual threat to open up Fayetteville's defense. And I think with the receiving group that Smith has and a running back in Bobby Smith, who has been a real revelation, they have more than a puncher's chance, but you can't commit turnovers, and that offense needs to remain efficient.
I'm going to play the Uno reverse card. I think this game is going to be about Smith's defense. Not to say Fayetteville State is any kind of offensive juggernaut per se, but seeing some of the plays, you can't get complacent. And I think when you run out to a 38-6 lead like they did against Winston, the Rams didn't go quietly. I mean, they pushed back, they scored, and they didn't really ever make it close per se, but they made the Bulls think a little bit, and then they responded and put up two or 3 touchdowns of their own to make that final margin of victory what it was. But you can't give up the long runs. They've done that really all season. You got to run fit properly, and I just think if the defense plays at the highest level it's played to this point, they've got a better shot of winning. Kelvin Durham, he might not throw for 351 like he did last week. I think Durham's going to get his. He'll probably have 200, 2 touchdowns, some scampering on the ground, that type of deal, but he'll do what he does. I don't think the offense is necessarily going to be an issue. It's, can the defense not give up those 50-yard chunk plays on the ground or a blown coverage here or there, give up a long pass? To me, that's going to be the key. So we don't agree on a lot of things, and we don't agree this time. Yeah. I think defensively they have to be more sound than they've been all year.
I agree, because Fayetteville State is the type of team that will make you pay for mistakes.
And not just big mistakes. You can make a small mistake against that team. And
they will punish you fittingly. So I think it's going to be a close game. And even if you looked at common opponents, you would think Smith would probably have the advantage. For instance, they beat the brakes off Shaw
No,
at
shut him out.
Yeah, and what was it, 52, 58, something like that.
Yeah, I think
Whatever
it was 56
it was.
nothing.
Yeah, it was a bunch of points. It was a 50 burger,
Mhm.
and Smith has had 3 of those in the last 4 weeks, which points to that offense is working really well, and the defense is doing just enough to cover up whatever mistakes it's making by not giving up scores. And in terms of that common opponent, but Fayetteville also beat Shaw. I think it was 38-13, something like that. So the margin wasn't quite as wide, but still pretty convincing.
Mhm.
And this game is in Fayetteville. So I don't expect there to be a blowout at all.
Mm-mm.
And if you are Smith and you've been rolling in recent weeks, who can handle a tight game like I expect this one to be? Who can get out of this one alive will be the one, obviously, that's going to be the winner. And they'll have the inside track for that second berth in the CIAA title game behind Virginia Union, which is not going to lose another game, at least not in the regular season, because they are on a real roll, and they don't, for lack of a better term, they don't have to face a gauntlet like the teams in the old CIAA South does, which is the better football, the more competitive football is played in North Carolina when it comes to CIAA. Virginia Union may be the best team, but they don't have to go through the stuff that Winston-Salem, Smith, and Fayetteville State will throw at you.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking at Fayetteville's record, I mean, they start 0-3. They lose a 10-0 game to Benedict, 31-24 to Pembroke, and then NC Central really
that's
laid it
FCS.
to them. It is, and I mean, I guess you could say that's expected, but then even in CIAA play, yes, they won by large margins, but they haven't put up points to where I think Smith can't keep up. 38, 38, 34, 31. And none of these teams that I've mentioned, they've won these games against: Virginia State, Bowie State, Livingstone, Shaw. Neither of them have a defense like Smith is capable of. And I think if Smith can hold this team to 20 points, I think Smith still wins.
Yeah.
I think Smith's offense is going to put up 30. I've actually got this game at like 31-21. If there's that much offense scored in this game, I think Smith's got the upper hand. Now, on the flip side of that, if their defense starts giving up those chunk plays like I mentioned, it could be on the flip side of that. And where Fayetteville State's got the ball, they've got clock control, and it could be something like a 28-21 result in favor of Fayetteville State. So we can always hope that doesn't happen. But I think if Smith's defense plays the way it's capable, I don't see them losing this game.
We'll see, because the plan is road trip to Fayetteville and see how this all turns out, because it is literally the most important game that Smith has played since, probably 1972.
We should go live on the Charlotte Post Twitter account and do a Twitter Spaces on the road to Fayetteville.
Okay, moving right along. Let's talk about the Panthers. And they fell hard back to earth last week after getting railroaded by the Bills Mafia. And this week, it's not going to get easier, because they have to go off to Lambeau Field to play the resurgent and pretty hot Green Bay Packers.
They're good. This offense that the Packers have is very unique. Jordan Love has really come into his own, the quarterback for the Packers. Obviously, everybody knows about Josh Jacobs and what he can do, and an Alabama running back. And it seemed like for years Alabama was just running back with Henry and Jacobs and Eddie Lacy before he retired. And they've got running backs everywhere. Jahmyr Gibbs, another Alabama running back. And so, I don't think they'll lose as bad as they did to the Bills, but man, I don't see this being within 2 touchdowns.
Probably not. I don't. I don't have a whole lot of confidence that the Panthers will have enough answers for Green Bay's offense. I am just not convinced, especially at Lambeau.
Mm-hmm.
And Bryce Young is supposed to play and
Yeah.
get the start. And how many people would a week ago would have said, you know what? The Panthers are actually much better when Bryce Young plays.
I thought they're better when he plays, but I wish we had a rewind button or we could clip what I said in the podcast last week. Rubber was going to meet the road when the Panthers played a team that was worth a flip. They played the Patriots, got killed. Patriots are good. We saw that. Then they go on that little win streak, and they're like, "Oh, we 3-0 in the last 3 weeks." You played the Dolphins, the Cowboys, and the Jets.
Well, a year or 2 years ago, who would have said that they would have won those games?
But quite frankly, knowing the injuries that the Dolphins had, the Cowboys had, and the Jets had, me. These teams are awful. And I mean,
hindsight is 50-50, as Cam Newton once said.
It's okay. But it's like I said last week. They played a team that was actually a contender of sorts, and we saw what happened. Green Bay's another one of those teams that's going to be a contender of sorts in the NFC. Look out. 35-14.
Ooh. 35-14. Yeah,
I mean, they lost 40-9.
They also have a pretty good defense, too. So, man.
They got a better defense, in my opinion, than the Bills do. They only scored 9. Now, granted,
Andy Dalton was the quarterback.
The red rocket, red rifle, whatever his nickname is, was not rocketed many passes.
Well, no, he was not having a very good Sunday at all. But I think that maybe 2 touchdowns could be about right as a deficit.
I got it as 3.
So you're saying the Panthers are going to get absolutely eviscerated, huh? Mauled even.
I don't see a route to victory, and I don't see a route to keep it really close. That being said, you lose this game, you can't lose the next 2. You have to beat the Saints and the Falcons. I think to stay within what relevance the Panthers can stay in the league as a whole, you got to win those 2 games. And then, quite frankly, you need to keep it close with a 49er squad that's not exactly healthy by any stretch of the means.
Yeah, but they have a healthy record. You know,
they do, because they got one of the best coaches, in my opinion, in the league too. But you got the Rams, you got the Saints again, but then you finish the season Bucks, Seahawks, Bucks. Ouchie.
Yeah, because the Seahawks are playing really well too. So it's problematic.
Very.
For the Panthers. But it's the NFL. Every team has talent, but now there's always those great equalizers, injuries and schedules and stuff like that. So
I just don't know. I mean, you played the division they played within the NFC was the NFC West, and you already lost to the Cardinals. You have the 49ers, Rams, and Seahawks left, and those 3 teams
are the good ones.
Better than the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tough sledding. I don't want it to be, personally, because it's always better as a reporter when you're covering sports that your teams are having success that you cover.
Winning's good for business.
But it's not going to get much easier. If you drop one of the games to the Saints, it's a wrap.
Yeah, and the Saints
they're bad.
Yeah,
they're a whole different level of bad.
They're worse than the Panthers. And to be fair, the Panthers are 4-4. I think if you're this organization, considering what you've been through the last 7 or 8 seasons, 4-4 looks fairly good. It makes no difference who you've been playing. It's still the NFL.
You're going to be 4-5 after this week. You got to win those next 2 to get to 6-5 against the Saints and Falcons before. I know you call it Murderers Row. 49ers, Rams, and then after the Saints game, Bucks, Seahawks, Bucks. It'll be interesting to see what they can do.
Yeah. Well, first things first, off the Lambeau.
Yeah, that's going to be a It'll be a trip down to Green Mile.
Well, at Green Mile in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next up is high school football. We have not forgotten the high school folks.
No.
And the regular season has come to a close. And it's been pretty much all Hough all year in terms of sitting atop the Magnificent Seven as the top high school team in Mecklenburg County.
And the state, maybe.
Now comes the fun part.
the cynic over here, a.k.a. Herb L. White, wants to see Hough get the job done. And
I do.
Real quick interlude segment. Cam shout-outs. Want to shout out the conference champions. Obviously, Hough won the Greater Charlotte Athletic Conference.
The
whatever.
GCAC.
Yeah. They finished 5-0 in conference. In a conference that has, Myers Park, South Meck, Hopewell, West Meck, and Garinger. Garinger did get a win. First game of the year. They got a win.
Well, there is that.
And they haven't since. 113 points for, 416 against. I'm going to give Jupe a fair shake. We won't get on that topic.
You got to build culture first.
You have to build culture. I will say this. He made a Facebook post. It was relatively long, but I'll give you the highlights. And they had their senior night. And when there was like 6 or 7 seniors that didn't have a parent or a guardian or any type of representation, that struck a chord with him. Like, we've got all these players coming out now, but they're in tough situations. A lot of these kids, they come from situations that are just not anything I've ever been through, anything I would ever wish on any kid. And so, they had coaches stand in and escort them out on the field and all that stuff. And, that's a feel-good story. But he at the end of his post, he said one of the players asked, Juper, are you going to stick around, this kind of thing? He's like, yeah. I am. This is about change. It's time to change the culture at the G. He's intentional about it, and I think he's one of the right guys for the job. So shout out to the Wildcats. It was rough in back half of the season for sure. Not many competitive games, but look, if Jupe has enough time there, I think it will take a long time before they're considered to be
Easy.
Good football team, but
yeah.
Give it 3 seasons. I don't think many teams will be scheduled on for homecoming.
Yeah, we can only hope.
But shout out to Hough for winning that conference, the Southwestern or the SWAC conference. Give it up for the Providence Panthers.
Yeah.
I know going into the season, a lot of folks kind of thought that might have been Palisades Conference to lose, myself included.
They did.
But Providence beat them. Providence finished 5-0 in the conference. And look, beat Audrey Kell last night. So 5-0, hats off to the Panthers. And then what we called the Juggernaut Conference, the Mech Power 6, West Charlotte. I owe Sam Griner Chipotle for lunch. Because I told him, I was like, if you don't win the conference, you owe me lunch. But if you win the conference, I'll get you lunch. And so he wants Chipotle. So, but my biggest thing with West Charlotte, that defense is on a different planet right now. 3 straight shutout wins. Yes, it was North Meck, Chambers, but they shut out Butler. Only gave up 7 on the opening drive to Independence. Only gave up 9 to Mallard Creek. And meanwhile, they're scoring 43, 37, 21, 31, 32. Shut out West Mecklenburg. Beat Providence 42-7. Their 2 losses were 3 points and 1 point. So this team's going to be tough. I'm hoping and praying we can somehow get a West Charlotte and Hough matchup in the playoffs.
That would be really exciting and quite electric, regardless of where they play. They can go out there and play in the middle of I-77, and folks will show up to see it.
The road game.
Literally.
I think that game would just be...
And you know what else? If that were the case, I would imagine that CMS's new big game policy would kick in. And I would love to see that happen.
Do they have jurisdiction over that if it's a playoff game, though?
It's on CMS property. I would imagine so.
Well, I know Sam and Coach Baker over at Hough, they've talked about possibly trying to get that game moved to a location like UNC Charlotte or Memorial Stadium or something, because that game can't have restrictions.
It would be a sad commentary, but
It can't. I mean, you just can't. That game, it might not rival the Independence Butler crowds back in, when I was a wee little tyke back in the day, but that game would pack out Memorial Stadium.
it would. And Memorial Stadium has seen its fair share of really big high school games. But again, CMS would have the jurisdiction over security and all the other stuff that goes with that. And if that policy is enacted for that particular game, oh,
I would write a column. I'd put CMS on blast. My email's out there for anyone that wants to contact me from CMS, and we can have a talk. That would be such a disgrace to high school football. It would be a disgrace to the parents, to the families, to the players, most importantly, and ultimately, you're costing these schools money.
and the district is always yapping about the cost of doing business.
And trying to raise money for the schools. Well, you're hurting. I get people need to quit acting a fool. I'm the first to say that. I would say it if it's Myers Park. I would say it if it's West Charlotte. I don't care about the demographic. People act like you got common sense, but this can't happen. You can't force people's hands in saying, "Oh, we can't have so many fans at this game because we're scared someone's going to act a fool." Put them in cuffs and